I'm 73 years old, and I'm going to tell you something that will make most people uncomfortable. Good. Because comfort is exactly what's killing the spirit of everyone over 65. We've been sold this lie that once you hit a certain age, you're supposed to fade quietly into the background, become invisible, stop wanting, stop needing, stop feeling. They call it aging gracefully. I call it dying slowly while your heart is still beating. My name is Margaret. People who know me call me Maggie, though there aren't many of those left anymore. I was a nurse for 41 years at a hospital in Cleveland. I've held the hands of people taking their last breath. I've watched couples say goodbye after 60 years of marriage. I've seen what happens to people when touch disappears from their lives. And now, living it myself, I can tell you, nothing prepares you for the loneliness that seeps into your bones when intimacy becomes a memory. Let me tell you about the night everything changed for me. It was March 14th, 2019. My husband Richard had been gone for 3 years by then. Cancer took him in 8 months, which the doctors said was merciful. Merciful. I still don't understand that word. That night I was lying in bed, our bed, the one we'd shared for 38 years, and I reached over to his side without thinking. My hand touched cold sheets, and something broke inside me. Not because I missed him, though I did, but because I realized I couldn't remember the last time another human being had touched my skin with tenderness. 3 years, over 1,000 days without a gentle hand on my shoulder, without fingers intertwined with mine, without the simple warmth of another body next to me in the dark. You see, when we talk about intimacy after 65, everyone assumes we're talking about sex. And here's the thing, that's part of it, yes, and I'm not going to pretend it isn't. But intimacy is so much bigger than that. Intimacy is my daughter brushing my hair when I visit, something she stopped doing years ago because we're both too busy. Intimacy is having someone look into your eyes when they talk to you instead of at their phone. Intimacy is being known, being seen, being touched like you matter. After Richard died, I did what society expected. I grieved quietly. I wore dark colors for a year. I went to my book club and my church group and smiled when people asked how I was doing. Fine, I'd say, taking it one day at a time. But inside, I was withering. My skin was forgetting what it felt like to be touched. My body was becoming a stranger to me, and nobody talked about it. Not my doctor, who asked about my blood pressure and my cholesterol, but never once asked if I was lonely. Not my children, who called every Sunday for exactly 15 minutes and asked if I was eating enough vegetables. Not my friends, most of whom were dealing with their own invisible battles. We'd sit around playing cards, talking about our grandchildren and our medications, and underneath it all was this screaming silence about the thing we all needed most. I want you to understand something. Human beings are not designed to live without touch. There are studies, I read them during those long nights when sleep wouldn't come, that show what happens to babies who aren't held. They fail to thrive. They get sick. Some of them die. And we think that need somehow disappears when we get old. We think our skin stops needing contact just because it's wrinkled now. That's the most dangerous lie we tell ourselves. Let me tell you about my friend Dorothy. She was 81, sharp as a tack, used to be a high school principal. After her husband passed, she moved into one of those assisted living places. Nice enough, clean, safe. But I visited her 6 months in, and she grabbed my hand and wouldn't let go. She held on to me for the entire visit like I was a life raft. And when I finally had to leave, she looked at me with tears in her eyes and said, "Maggie, the only time anyone touches me here is when they're checking my vitals." She died 8 months later. The official cause was pneumonia, but I know what really killed her. Loneliness is a disease, and we don't even have a name for it in the medical books. Now I want to tell you about the moment that saved my life. Because this story isn't just about loss, it's about what I learned. 2 years after Richard died, my neighbor's cat got loose. I found him hiding under my porch, scared and shivering. His name was Oliver, this orange tabby with half an ear missing from some old fight. I brought him inside to wait for my neighbor, and he curled up on my lap. I sat there for 2 hours, just stroking his fur, feeling his warmth, listening to him purr, and I cried. I cried harder than I had at Richard's funeral, because that small creature, that simple contact, reminded me I was still alive. I was still capable of giving and receiving comfort. Here's what nobody tells you about aging. Your body changes, yes. Things don't work the way they used to. But your need for connection doesn't diminish. It intensifies. Because you know how precious time is now. Every moment of genuine contact feels like a gift because you understand, in a way young people can't, that these moments are numbered. After the night with Oliver, I made a decision. I was done being invisible. I was done following the unwritten rules about how older women are supposed to behave. Quiet, modest, asking for nothing, grateful for whatever scraps of attention come their way. I started reaching out. I joined a grief support group, and at first I just listened. But then I started talking, really talking, about the loneliness, about missing touch, about lying in bed at night with my arms wrapped around a pillow because I needed to hold something. And you know what happened? Everyone in that room started crying because I had named the thing we were all too ashamed to admit. I'm going to tell you something now, and I need you to really hear it. There is no age at which you stop deserving love. There is no age at which your body becomes unworthy of tenderness. There is no age at which your need for connection becomes inappropriate or embarrassing. Anyone who tells you otherwise, whether it's society, your family, or that cruel voice in your own head, is wrong. At 70, I started dating again. Do you know how terrifying that was? My daughter thought I'd lost my mind. My son asked if I was sure I wasn't being scammed. But I went to coffee with a widower named Harold from my grief group. We talked for 3 hours. At the end, he held my hand as we walked to our cars, and I felt something I thought I'd never feel again. That flutter, that spark, that reminder that I was still a woman, still alive, still capable of feeling. Harold and I dated for 2 years. We held hands at the movies. We danced in his living room to Frank Sinatra. We fell asleep on his couch watching old television shows, my head on his shoulder, his arm around me. We never lived together. We never even talked about marriage. But we gave each other what we both needed: presence, warmth, the simple miracle of being touched by someone who cared. He passed away last spring, and I'm alone again. But I'm not lonely the same way I was before, because I learned something with Harold that I want you to understand. Intimacy isn't something that happens to you. It's something you choose. It's something you fight for. Even at 73, even with a body that creaks and a heart that's been broken more times than I can count, I choose to stay open. I choose to keep reaching out. I choose to believe that my need for connection isn't shameful. It's human. And here's the hardest truth of all. You have to ask for what you need. You have to say the words out loud. Tell your children you need more hugs. Tell your friends you need them to really see you when you talk. If you're widowed or divorced or never married, consider that maybe, just maybe, it's not too late to find someone to share warmth with. Not because you're desperate, but because you deserve it. Because your skin and your soul are still hungry for contact, and feeding them isn't selfish, it's survival. I've watched too many people my age shrivel up and disappear because they accepted loneliness as their fate. I've watched them stop reaching out, stop trying, stop believing they were worthy of touch. Don't let that be you. Don't let shame or embarrassment or the expectations of others convince you that your time for intimacy has passed. Tell me your story in the comments. I read every single one. They keep me company in the quiet hours, and they remind me that I'm not alone in this. If something I said today resonated with you, subscribe. Do it for the person you'll be in 10 years, the one who might need this reminder even more than you do now. And if you know someone who's struggling with loneliness, who's living without touch, who's forgotten what it feels like to be held, share this with them before it's too late. The body you're in right now, whatever its age, still knows how to feel. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. You are not too old for tenderness. You never will be.